My name is Randy Bigley. Joining me on the podcast right now from Ohio Mutual Insurance Group, Todd Boyer. Hello, Todd.
Randy, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Boy, it's getting towards that holiday time, getting busy and all.
It is, it's the time when everybody kind of is getting focused on family and some of those travel plans and the like, and it's a fun time of year.
Yeah, it is, and and people need their insurance moves now.
Well, if you're hitting the road, if you're going to be renting a car, if you're going to be traveling, if you're going to be having work done on your home, if you're going to be preparing your home and property for winter weather, all those things have insurance implications.
Awesome, yeah. Winter can be a little hard on your home and your car, too.
It can, and one of the things we like to do this time of year is we send out just some reminders and tips for people about what they can do to get their property ready. And it's a lot of simple things, it's a lot of common sense things, but when you get busy, sometimes those things can slip your mind. So just simple stuff like if you're in your home, check your gutters, make sure that your gutters are clear. This time of year, you're dropping leaves and all kinds of stuff in those gutters. If they get clogged up, and then we get cold weather and those gutters get full and frozen, it can create all kinds of problems for a homeowner. And it's just a simple thing to do to make sure that you get someone to look in those gutters and keep them clear. It saves you a whole lot of trouble and expense and hassle. Unplug your hoses from their hose bibs outside so that you don't have those hose bibs get frozen. Just something simple like that, just to take those hoses off to make sure that those are protected from the potential water damage and freezing that can happen.
I take those, we have those insulated cup things you put over the outside faucets. We put those on our house.
Yeah, and that's a good way just to remind you that in order to put that on, you've got to undo the hose.
Right, sure.
But if you leave the hose attached, it can't, and I leave my hoses attached all year long, except for winter. But I had to be reminded to undo those because leaving the hoses connected actually is what can cause some of that problem.
Wow. Cause damage there too.
Yeah. And if you've got trees that are on your property, now is a good time when the leaves are coming down or off to take a look and see, do you have any leaves or branches that are overhanging your roof? Maybe you want to look at maybe trimming those back because that can create a little bit more peace of mind in terms of falling limbs, in terms of the leaves that are falling onto your roof and clogging your gutters. So just some of those simple maintenance things, walking around and being mindful of what can cause problems to your property is a way to just protect yourself. Wow.
Got some news coming. I see we're talking about hurricanes, right?
Yeah, Hurricane Ian was a pretty destructive storm. I mean, the estimates are still coming in. Right now we're over $7 billion in insurance claims. The estimates say that the total damage from the storm could be as high as $70 billion. And when you factor in kind of the ripple effects throughout the economy, it could top $200 billion.
It's a lot of money.
So it's just tons and tons of impact from something like that. And you might wonder, how does somebody in central Ohio, north central Ohio, feel the impact from a storm in Florida? But everybody's going to, because insurance companies like Ohio Mutual, we transfer some of our risk to large multinational reinsurance companies who help kind of create a backstop for us on a local level. So we assume a certain amount of that risk, and then we sell some of that risk to other larger carriers. Those companies are going to be paying out billions of dollars for Hurricane Ian. You can imagine what happens then to the price of their product for companies like us. And when we get price increases to our customers, those get passed along just like anybody else, any other industry. So the financial impact, even though it wasn't a direct hit weather-wise here in Ohio, it's likely to have a ripple effect through the entire economy and through the entire insurance industry, and it's likely to impact people even in Ohio.
Trickles down all the way down, right?
It does, and that's just the nature of insurance. It's we're all sharing the cost for the damage that happens to somebody somewhere. The broader we can spread that risk, the lower that individual cost that gets passed on is, and that's kind of the genius of insurance. But it also means when you have a big storm like this, that financial impact does impact a lot of people.
How's inflation impact insurance?
Well, inflation is painful for everybody. We've seen enormous increases in the cost of building materials and the cost of auto parts. We've seen that impact the supply chain, which means that If you have damage to your car, damage to your home, it takes a lot longer to get those repairs taken care of. And there's frustration from an auto insured who's waiting for their car to get out of the auto body shop because they had a fender bender that might not have even been their fault. But that shop may be waiting for parts. Well, how does that translate? Well, that means that they're having to have a rental car for longer. Most insurance policies have a certain limit. You buy a certain number of days or up to a dollar amount on your rental car insurance if you need it for that temporary period. A lot of people now are getting to the point where they're going beyond that, and that cost comes out of pocket.
Sure. Right,
and so you can understand where some of that frustration comes in, and those are just due to factors that are kind of rippling again through the economy at a much higher level than anybody can individually control. But we're going to see the impacts of inflation for probably a couple of years, even if it starts to abate anytime soon. So.
Yeah, wow, yeah. I hope it kind of we get this cleared up here.
Yeah, but if you think about insurance, if we have a sudden increase in prices, it takes us sometimes, months and months to get our prices adjusted for the future. And that then has to go through an approval process at a Department of Insurance. Then we have to sell those products at a higher price point that reflects what the cost of those products are. So we are working kind of on a future basis to recoup some of that increased cost that kind of has ramped up very suddenly. And so there's kind of a what we call a tail to this whole process that can extend the impact of these rapid price increases for a couple of years.
I saw the news where Kia and Hyundai they're getting sued, aren't they? I mean, for like theft and
I'll tell you
easy theft on the car.
It's a mess.
It's
a mess.
Yeah.
Because one of the banes of social media is that it is an easy way to be able to spread information, even if it's not positive information.
Sure, yeah.
We all know that. And so the word has gone out about how easy it is to be able to steal recently manufactured Hyundais and Kias without the ignition lock. As simple as using a USB device.
Really? Wow,
and so there's a lot of juvenile rings that are just breaking a window, popping the steering column, putting in a USB device, and driving the vehicle away.
Wow.
And usually it's for joyriding. It's just for the thrill of being able to get away with it.
Right.
But most of the times those vehicles are crashed, they're found damaged, or they're totaled. Obviously, that creates a cost for that car owner's insurance company. And the manufacturer, I think, has really struggled with trying to figure out how to address that properly. There's a lot of frustration in the auto market with those owners. We're keeping track of this to see if there's something maybe we as an insurer can do to help our insureds who own those vehicles that are at risk. So there's simple things like park it in the garage, not in the driveway if you can, because that'll keep it a little more safe. If you can get a club, something that manually keeps the steering wheel from being able to be manipulated, chances are someone looking at that vehicle for the purposes of stealing it for a joyride is going to go on to the next one because yours is a little more difficult to have to address. So there's some practical things that someone can do. As a car owner, if that was my car, I wouldn't want to have to go through all that hassle. I would expect the manufacturer to have taken the appropriate steps to make my vehicle a little more difficult to steal. So then you're seeing things like class action lawsuits and people who are demanding more from the manufacturer, and we're monitoring that. But we've seen a modest increase in the thefts of some of our insured vehicles in those manufacturer categories. But we're monitoring that very closely.
Wow. USB device, huh?
Yeah, it's just, who would think?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on with Ohio Mutual, by the way? Lots of things, right?
We're doing well. The finances have been a little challenging this year with some storm damage and the like, but we expect that. We save money for that rainy day when we need it, or that windy day, or whatever it might be. But in light of that, we still have very, very good news in terms of how we're performing compared to our industry. 9 years since 2009, we've been in a very elite group called the Awards 50, which is the top 50 insurance companies in the country.
Wow,
and when you think that there's 12 to 1,500 of those that get evaluated independently, there's nothing we can do to kind of make us get closer to the top of that list. That's all just based on data and metrics throughout the industry. So when a company from Bucyrus, Ohio is in the top 50
Right.
9 times since 2009,
That's great.
that says that we're probably doing something right. It's hard to keep in that company, but we're very proud of that. Another thing we're really proud of is every year we do an engagement survey with our associates. Obviously, this is a very challenging labor market, and with people having the option to be able to work remote, you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to keep your best employees and keep them engaged. And we just completed a recent engagement survey internally, and we found, and it's administered by Gallup. So this is very scientific. It's got a high degree of accuracy and credibility. And for the second year in a row, we're world class in our engagement, which means our associates are they're interested in what they're doing. They're working well with their colleagues. They are searching for solutions. They're not being a negative influence on the company or on their colleagues that they're working with. And so that shows that we have maintained and are continuing to grow a really healthy environment and culture at Ohio Mutual. And what's an interesting challenge is we are hiring a lot more remote people. And people who previously even had come into the office 5 days a week are now working from home a couple days a week.
Okay.
So we're, like most companies who have the option to be able to do remote work, we're in a hybrid environment. So people will come into the office 1, 2, 3, 4 days a week. We have a small number of people that come in every day by their choice or by the nature of their work. But we've really adopted this hybrid model that allows us to offer our associates a lot of flexibility. And the freedom that comes with being able to be a little more available for family things and the like. And then I think that then translates into those high engagement scores and the high satisfaction with our associates.
Sure.
So there's some good news there, even though some things in the economy are a little wanky right now. This actually is a good thing.
Yeah, awesome. What else is happening?
Well, we're looking at trying to expand our footprint.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're kind of always doing. And we're not satisfied to just be in the 7 states that we're in now. So we're constantly keeping a lookout for other opportunities. Many times there's a disruption in the economy. It sometimes creates opportunities. So other companies that maybe were a little more tenuous in their financial position than Ohio Mutual is, and maybe open to some kind of affiliation or some kind of a merger situation. When these reinsurance rates go up and when there's this kind of roiling in the economy, sometimes it creates opportunities. So we have some folks internally who are paying attention to that and looking to see if we can increase our footprint and add people to the Ohio Mutual family.
Right. Well, if somebody's interested in knowing more about Ohio Mutual, how can they do that?
Well, it's as simple as going to our website. That's omig.com. There's all kinds of information there about the history of the company, about the products that we offer, the states that we operate in, the agents that we partner with across those 7 states, and you can get a wealth of information right there.